Witch hats are only for Halloween. Please, don't be a basic witch. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Fandom Vintage. My name is Lily, and today I wanted to show you how to make this summery witch straw hat. So this hat is made entirely via crochet. I wanted to go over it step by step with you, and it is a beginner friendly project. So if you are new to crochet, never fear, I will go over each of the stitches with you and how to do them. If you are more familiar with crochet already, you can go ahead and skip forward if you already know how to do these basic stitches. For this tutorial, I will be going through each of the rows and stitches how to make this, but if you prefer a written pattern, I do have that available for download in my shop, and I will link that for you below. Now, I know you're used to seeing my lovely mug throughout these videos as I talk through the tutorials, but this, since it's crochet, is going to be mostly just my hands since I want to talk you through how I did the stitches. So without further ado, let's get started. So to start, we're going to need about 160 yards of raffia in the color of your choice, a 3.75mm crochet hook, about 2 to 3 yards of satin ribbon, and wire or brim reed. Okay, so first I just want to quickly go over how to do a single crochet. I'm going to show you in a piece that's already been kind of worked up. As you can see, there is a front and a back loop in our crochet here. So to do the single crochet, we're going to take our hook and go through both the front and back loops. Sometimes it can be a little tight, but to go through both loops and then yarn over, pull through. Now you have 2 loops on your crochet hook, and we're going to yarn over one more time and pull through both loops, and that is a single crochet. And just to show you all one more time, to single crochet in the next loop, we just go through the front and back loops, yarn over, pull through, and there are 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through again, through both loops, and that's a single crochet. Now to increase the single crochet, to increase the amount of stitches on your row, we're going to crochet into that same loop we just did the single crochet in and do another single crochet. So yarn over, and yarn over one more time, pull through both loops. So we just did 2 single crochets in one stitch. And as you can see, we have increased our row by 1. Now to start our project, we're going to be making a magic circle. To start, hold the raffia with your thumb. With your first 2 fingers, make an X, starting with the bottom left corner and wrapping around to make an X, and holding the tail with your remaining 2 fingers. Go under the first portion of the X, and to hook the top left of the X and pull it through and under. Loop it around, and we're going to flip our hand over to the back side and yarn over that tail piece, hook it, and pull through the loop that you made, and that is your magic circle. When you take your hands out, you have a loop there, and that can be tightened like so onto your hoop. That tail, when we pull it, is actually going to close our circle and to make sure we have a nice tight circle of stitches. So to start our first round, we're going to be making 6 single crochets in the magic circle. So just to go into the circle, yarn over, and we'll have 2 loops, yarn over again and pull through. So that's 1 single crochet, and 2, 3, and make sure that you're crocheting over that tail as well, because that has to be included in the circle to be able to pull it closed. And 6. So that was 6 stitches, as we can count here. Now to close this circle, we just pull, or make sure it's a little straight, and then pull the tail, and that will close up the circle, and you'll have a nice neat circle of 6 single crochets. Now on to our second round, we'll be doing a single crochet in the next stitch. So now we're going to be working into that previous round that we just made. So single crochet 1 in that next stitch. Sometimes it's a little tight, especially with that first row, so take your time. So we just yarned over and pulled through, yarn over again, and pulled through both loops to make a single crochet. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So we're going to be increasing in that next stitch. So 1 and 2 in the same stitch. And we're just going to be repeating that pattern 2 more times to complete the row. So it's a single crochet, and then 1 and 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and just complete the round that way. Okay, and for our third round, we're going to start with an increase. So 2 single crochets in a single stitch, so 1 and 2, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So single crochet 1, and then single crochet in the next stitch. Again, it was a little tight. Here we go. And single crochet, and that is the pattern for the round. We're going to increase here, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and that will be a total of 3 times in this round. Again, and then single crochet 1 and 2. At this point, we should have a total of 12 stitches in our round. On to round 4, we're going to start with an increase, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch, 1 and 2, and then single crochet in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times for a total of 3 times in that row. And once we're all done with that row, we should have a total of 15 stitches in that round. Now on to round 5, we're going to start with single crocheting in 2 stitches, so 1 and another single crochet in the next stitch, then an increase, so 1 single crochet and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and then like the other rounds, we're going to repeat that pattern 2 more times to complete the round. And just a little reminder, make sure to try to keep your tension as consistent as possible so we have consistent stitches throughout. Alright, and at the end of this row that we're all done with, we should have a total of 18 stitches. On to round 6. So we're going to start with an increase, so 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as always, we're going to repeat this 2 more times to complete the round. And by the end of this round, we should have a total of 21 stitches. Alright, and on to round 7. Here we're going to start with single crochet in the first 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and then increase in the next stitch, so 2 single crochets in that one, 1 and 2 in the same stitch, then single crochet in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And we'll repeat that 2 more times to complete the round. And at the end of this round, we should have 24 stitches. On to round 8, we're going to start with an increase in this round. So 2 single crochets in that first stitch, 1 and 2, and then single crochet in the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And of course, repeat that 2 more times to complete the round. And once we're done with that round, we should end up with 27 stitches total. And on to round 9, we're going to start with single crocheting in the first 4 stitches. So 1, 2, oops, 2, 3, 4, there we go, and then increase in the next stitch, so 1 and 2 in the same stitch. I keep poking Ben's butt with my hook because he is in the way, and then single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and there, he's had enough of my poking. So that's 2, 3, and 4, and that is the pattern for this row, so repeat that 2 more times to complete out the round. And at the end of this round, we should end up with a total of 30 stitches, and as you can see, it's already starting to take shape. For round 10, we're going to start with an increase, so 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And like usual, repeat that 2 more times for a total of 3 times in this round. I'm having some trouble with this last stitch here, obviously. And at the end of this round, we should have a total of 33 stitches. And on to round 11, we're going to start this round by single crocheting 5 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then increase in the next stitch, so 2 single crochets in that stitch, 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 5 stitches. 2, 3, 4, and 5, that is the pattern for this round. Repeat that 2 more times, and we will end up with a total of 36 stitches at the end of this round. Now on to row 12, we're going to start with an increase, so that's 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then just single crochet 11 stitches. And that is the pattern for this row, so after you do that, repeat it 2 more times for a total of 3 repeats, and that will be the pattern for this round. And now that we're all done with that round, we should have a total of 39 stitches, as you can see. Now on to round 13, we're going to start with single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Just got to rearrange my raffia here. 5 and 6, and then increase, so that's 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet 6 more, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and repeat that 2 more times to complete out the row. Alright, and at this point we should have 42 stitches total. On to round 14. Here we're going to start with an increase, so 1 and then 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet 13 stitches, and that is the pattern for this round. So after you do the 13, just repeat that 2 more times to finish out the row. And by the end of that, you should have 45 stitches in the round. On to round 15, we're going to start with single crocheting in the next 7 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and increase, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that is the pattern for this round. Repeat that around 2 more times. And at the end of this, we should have 48 stitches in the round. Now on to round 16, we're going to start with an increase, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 15 stitches. And that is the pattern. We're just going to repeat that around 2 more times after this time, and that'll be the end of our row. And at this point, we should have 51 stitches in our round. On to round 17, we're going to single crochet 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then increase with 2 single crochets in the same stitch. That's 2, and then single crochet 8 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And like the other rounds, just repeat that 2 more times to complete out the round. At this point, we should have 54 stitches in our round. And on to round 18, we start with an increase. So like always, that's 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, and then single crochet for the next 17 stitches. After that, repeat that pattern 2 more times to finish out the round. At the end of this round, we should have 57 stitches total. And on to round 19, we're going to start with 9 single crochets, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then increase with 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then single crochet in the next 9 stitches. And like always, just repeat that pattern 2 more times to finish out the round. By now, we should have 60 stitches total in the round. On to round 20, we're going to start with an increase, so that's 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet for the next 19 stitches. And after that, we just repeat that pattern 2 more times. And total we have 63 stitches. Now round 21, we're going to start with single crocheting 10 stitches. And then after the 10, increase, so that's 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then single crocheting in the next 10 stitches to finish out this pattern. And again, just repeating that 2 more times to finish out the round. And at this point, we should have a total of 66 stitches. All right, and on to round 22, we start with an increase. So that's 2 in the same stitch, 1 and 2. And then single crochet in the next 21 stitches and repeat that 2 more times after the 21. And I will meet you at the end of this round. And by now we should have a total of 69 stitches. You can see that cone shape is really coming out now. We have round 23 now to start with single crocheting 11 stitches. And once we get the 11, we'll increase with 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then single crochet in the next 11 stitches. Repeat that pattern 2 more times after this. And at the end of this round, we should have a total of 72 stitches. On to round 24. We're going to start with an increase, so 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet around 23 stitches. And that is the pattern for this round. So after the 23, just repeat this pattern 2 more times and we'll get to the end of the row. Alright, so at this point we have a total of 75 stitches. And on to round 25. So here we're going to start with single crocheting 12 stitches. And once we've gotten the 12, we'll do an increase by doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then single crocheting in the next 12 stitches. Again, just repeating that 2 more times after this first pattern, and then I will see you at the end of the row. Now at this point we have a total of 78 stitches. You can see the cone is really prominent now. On to row 26, we start with an increase as we do with all of our even numbered rows. So 1 and 2, and then just single crochet around 25 times. Repeat that pattern 2 more times after that. And at the end of this row, we should have 81 stitches. Now for round 27, we're going to start with the single crochet 13 stitches. And then increase by 1. So 1 and 2 in the same stitch. And then single crochet another 13 stitches. Repeat that whole pattern 2 more times. And at the end of the row, we should have a total of 84 stitches now. Round 28, starting with an increase. And as you can see here, I had to change out my raffia because my first round ran out. So I'm just crocheting over the tail of the old raffia. And after that increase, we're going to single crochet 27 single crochets, and that gives us a total of 87 stitches after that round. Round 29, start with single crocheting 14 stitches. And once we're done with the 14, we're going to increase. So 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and then single crochet 14 more for that pattern, and repeat that like always 2 more times to finish out the round. So at this point we have 90 stitches, and that is the completion of the top portion of our hat. So from here we're going to be working on the brim. Now to start with the brim, I'm going to use stitch markers. I personally use bobby pins just because they're easier for me, and I have a lot of them lying around just to mark the ends of each of my rounds to keep track of them at this point. So for the brim, we're going to be doing what we call a front loop only single crochet. So I wanted to show you how we do it. Normally we would go through both the front and back loops here to do a regular single crochet, but the front loop only is where we literally just go through the front loop. So instead of going through both loops like that, we're going through just the front loop here, as you can see. And then just like a regular single crochet, we're going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through both loops. And so we did a single crochet, but only in the front loop. And just to show you one more time, instead of both loops, going through just the front loop, yarning over, pull through, yarn over again, and pull through both. So to continue onto the brim, I'm going to front loop only single crochet in the next 40 stitches. So after these 40 stitches is where we're going to create the gap for our ribbon. So to do this, we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and skipping the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going into that 6th stitch and just doing a front loop single crochet. And that's how we'll continue and do another 40 single crochets around the brim. As you can see here, it creates a little hole that we'll be able to thread our ribbon through later. So just continuing and doing another 40 front loop only single crochets. And we're almost at the end, so we have 5 stitches left till we get to the end where I marked it with my bobby pin. And we're going to make another gap here, just like we did on the other side, by chaining 5. Two, 3, 4, and 5, and then skipping the next 5 stitches, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just slip stitching into that last stitch where our marker was. So to slip stitch, I'm just going to yarn over once. Instead of yarning over again, I'm just going to pull that through the loop just to close off our round. And that's the end of our round. And we should still have a total of 90 stitches here, since we didn't do any increases in this round. And as you can see, the brim is going to start coming out this way. Now on to round 2 of our brim. We're going to be going back to regular single crochets that goes through the front and the back loop. And we're going to start with an increase. So that's 1. I'm going to mark that with my stitch marker, or my bobby pin in this case. And 2 in the same stitch. And then we're going to single crochet 14 single crochets, and that's the pattern for this round. It's going to be repeated 6 times, not 3, because the brim is a bit bigger. Now when we do get to where we made those gaps on the previous round, we're going to use those and do regular single crochets in those chains as well. So it might be a little bit tight, but just take your time and single crochet through those just like normal as well. And by the end of that round, we should have a total of 96 stitches in our brim. On to round 3. So first we're going to start with single crocheting in 8 stitches. Of course, marking where the start of our round is. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we're going to increase a stitch. So 1 and 2 in the same stitch. And then we're going to single crochet 7. And that is the pattern for this round. So repeat that around 5 more times after this for a total of 6 total, and that will be the end of this round. And at this point we should have 102 stitches in the round. For round 4 of our brim, we're going to start with an increase. That's 1 and 2, marking that first stitch, and then single crocheting in the next 16. After that, repeat that 5 more times, and I'll see you at the end of the row. Here we are, and we have a total of 108 stitches now. On to round 5, we're going to start with 9 single crochets. 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to increase, so 2 stitches in the same, or 2 single crochets in the same stitch rather, and then single crocheting 8 more. And that is our pattern, so just repeat that 5 more times after this time. And we have a total of 114 stitches. Now on to round 6. We're going to start with an increase, marking that first stitch, and 1 more in the same stitch for that increase, and then single crocheting 18, and of course repeating that 5 more times after this one. And at the end of this round, we should have a total of 120 stitches. Almost there. So round 7, we're going to start with single crocheting 10 stitches. Almost forgot to mark the beginning of my row. And then we're going to increase and then single crochet for 9 more stitches, and again that is going to be repeated a total of 6 times in this round. So after this time, repeat that 5 more times, and that should be the pattern for round 7. And by now we should have 126 stitches total in our brim. On to round 8. We're going to start with the increase, so that's 1 and 2, marking that first stitch, and then single crocheting for the next 20 stitches. Again, like always, repeat that 5 more times after this time, and that should be it for round 8. And at the end of round 8, we have a total of 132 stitches. As you can see, it is quite sizable now. Alright, so now is when we are going to be using our wire. If you prefer Brim reed, you can definitely use that as well. I just didn't have any on hand, so I'm just going to use this metal wire that I have. But Brim reed is clear and it is a bit more flexible, so definitely use that if you like. I'm going to just measure out the circumference of my brim at this point and just give it a nice clip. So now we're going to be crocheting this wire into the last round of our brim. So holding this, make sure that you hold the wire or the brim reed underneath your project here. And so when we yarn over, as you can see, it'll grab the wire into the project, and so we can crochet it and attach it onto our brim. So I just yarned over and pulled through, making sure to grab the wire on the way. And then we're just going to yarn over and pull through again, just like a regular single crochet. And it's going to be single crocheting for 11 stitches. And see, again, make sure that you catch that wire on each of your single crochets around. So the pattern is single crochet for 11, increase by 1, and then single crochet 10 for 6 times. Once you get close to the end, you can go ahead and attach the wire. I'm using a little bit of black tape here, but you can use whatever kind of tape you prefer. I'm wrapping it around a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and secure and that it won't come undone. And then just continuing around and finishing up that round, again making sure to grab the wire with each of our single crochets that we do. Okay, and now that we've gotten to our very last stitch, as you can see with my bobby pin marking where we first started, we're just going to finish off our project now. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just go through the front and the back loops. So going through, yarning over and pulling through, and then pulling through again without yarning over. So just a slip stitch, and then going to chain 1, and then just clip the raffia and giving it a good sizable tail to be able to weave in the ends, and pulling all the way through and giving it a nice tug to make sure it is nice and secure. And that finishes off our project. As you can see, the wire gives it a really nice structure around the brim to give it a really nice circular shape. Now the last thing we have to do is just to take a needle and weave in those ends so we can't see them, and make sure that it's nice and secure. Attach a black ribbon or whatever color ribbon you prefer. I stitched them down with a little tack stitch just to make sure they don't move. And we are completely done. That was it. Now I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial and that you found it helpful. I do hope to see a lot more summery witches out there. If you do make one and post it on social media, I would love to see any fandom vintage creations that any of our viewers have made. So if you do make this hat or any of my other crafts, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag FandomVintageFanMade on Instagram, and I would love to see and share your creations with our community. Again, if you haven't seen my Instagram, follow Fandom Vintage for completed looks and my attempts at modeling, sometimes not necessarily things that I have made, but outfits that I've put together that are fandom-y or vintagey or both. So make sure to take a look, and if you like it, feel free to follow. Well, thanks so much for following along with me today. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe for more vintage, geeky, crafty goodness. Thanks so much for watching, y'all, and I'll see you next time.